Hi there. I'm Brad Dobson.
And I'm Dr. Minette Riordan, and together we're the founders of the Path to Profit Academy. And
this is the Path to Profit podcast. And now I think we're on take 51 of trying to get the technology to work this morning. We're just thrilled to have this underway and be bringing you and serving our community with a podcast where we can give you the information that you need, hopefully, and interview some really neat people. This morning, we get to interview each other, which we kind of love because we like to talk.
That's the truth.
I think where we want to go with this initial podcast is to sort of lay the groundwork and the framework of what we do at the Academy, who we want to serve, who we are. And we'll probably do that for the first few podcasts, just to give a real good indication of where we want to go. After that, we are blessed by the fact that as creatives, and the fact that Minette is a wonderful networker, we don't really have any issues getting content or other speakers on the podcast. So we feel like we're going to have a great lineup of interviewees to talk to over the next, I don't know, let's say 5 years.
5 years, huh? You think our podcast is going to go for 5 years? It'll be fun to see where it takes us. And I think this is a great point to maybe talk about our journey a little bit and how we got to where we are with the Path to Profit Academy today. What do you think?
Yeah, definitely. How did we get here, Minette?
It's been a long and crazy journey, Brad. So just to tell you a little bit about Brad and myself. So recently we celebrated 20 years of marriage, kind of hard to believe.
How did we do that?
How did we do that? So a lot of fun, a lot of laughter, a lot of tears, and a lot of being willing to put in the work. And, you know, it's so funny, all the relationship studies that I've done over the years. Running a business with a partner is very much like running a marriage with a partner. It's a lot of the same journeys, a lot of the same roller coaster and ups and downs. And so for a lot of that time over the last 20 years, I owned a publishing company in the Dallas, Texas area called Scissortail Publishing. And we had a print magazine, we had a website, we hosted big expos, and we were working really hard without a lot of money to show for it. It was a pretty stressful time in our lives and in our marriage as well. And at the time, we're raising 2 kids. I started that business when the kids were 3 and 1. And Brad, they're 17 and 14. It's kind of hard to believe. And we just hired our oldest son as employee number 3 of the Path to Profit Academy.
I think that means we're old now.
I don't know. Speak for yourself. I don't feel old.
Yeah, it was, there were a lot of challenges. I was working full time and also trying to help Minette, you know, by being supportive, but also, you know, physically helping in the business. And, you know, we did a lot of things right, but we also did a lot of things wrong, flat out of ignorance. You know, my background is as a software engineer. I worked in embedded software for 20 years. And mainly because it's sort of an intersection of a very creative lifestyle and a great paying job. And I always had great benefits from that. But there were never really entrepreneurs in my background. In Minette's background, there were a lot of entrepreneurs, but perhaps not
a lot of successful ones necessarily.
Not a lot of success. So I don't know that either of us had any innate skills for that. And we certainly didn't have any business training.
It's so true. So when I first launched the company, you know, Brad said he was in embedded software for 20 years. Well, I have a doctorate from Stanford University in Spanish. I thought I was going to be a college professor for the rest of my life. And when I started a print magazine, neither of us, but certainly me as the face of the business, knew nothing about marketing and sales, didn't know anything about networking, didn't know anything about managing the numbers of the business. And, you know, one of the stories I was thinking about sharing, Brad, was, it's that creative in me and my love of risk that was like, how hard can it be? I can do this. And just jumping in and starting is both a gift and a curse of mine, as you can ask Brad, who's had to put up with that creative follow me down a lot of different rabbit holes over the years. But I remember I got through the whole first issue of our magazine in 2002 and realized after I printed it, distributed everything, I hadn't invoiced anybody, and it's like, oh yeah, it's like, it would be nice to get paid, and so it's that
basic business skills.
I know, basic business skills. And so that was in 2002. It was a long time ago. And I learned those basic business skills. I got help. I got a bookkeeper, an office manager, and the business started to grow, and it grew pretty fast. And it felt more like a rolling stone that I was chasing down the hill than that I was actually leading as a leader. I ended up in a big office, a 1,500 square foot office with salespeople and a full-time office manager. And we were grossing lots of money, but we weren't making a profit. And if we got anything from our families, whether they were entrepreneurial or worked in jobs, we both had a really strong work ethic. And I kept thinking, if I was just working harder, if I would just sell more, surely I can figure this out. I'm smart. Together we're smart. We can figure this out, and learn the hard way that working harder and putting more time in and making more sales wasn't the right answer. But figuring out the numbers was really what we were looking most for.
Yeah, we're growth focused, and we equated growing our gross with success. And that's really not the case. We had no focus on profit, and there's the basis for this podcast, the basis for our academy to help people with this. In the name of it, the path to profit. It's not the path to gross. And it's not necessarily the path to X, Y, or Z. It's specifically the path to profit, and because that's really where the rubber hits the road, is that that difference between your gross sales and how much you actually put in your pocket.
Yeah, it's so true, and so to make a long story short, over the different episodes of the podcast, we'll unroll more of our story, and you'll hear a lot more about the mistakes we made and how we'd love to support you in not making some of those mistakes, especially if you're a brand new entrepreneur just starting out. There's a lot of things that you could do from the very beginning of your business that will help you get on that path to profit a lot faster. But in 2012, we sold the publishing company and relocated our family to beautiful Santa Barbara, California. Yes, we've been there 4 years, and we still get so excited every day to say that we live in this beautiful place. And off I went on my entrepreneurial journey again. I started a coaching business, and
I rolled my eyes.
What's that?
I rolled my eyes.
Brad rolled his eyes. Yes.
Here she goes again.
Here I go again. But we made a very specific decision, I guess I want to say, for me to start another business and not to get a full-time job. Because one of the things that Brad and I love most about our life, and one of the things that we've worked hard for, is to have a lot of freedom and a lot of flexibility in our schedule. Our kids 4 years ago were in middle school and elementary school. There was still carpooling and driving to be done. And we've always built our businesses in a way that made them very family friendly. And so off I went again, as Brad said, through a lot more roller coasters until we finally hit on the realization that our clients are creative entrepreneurs. And I'm super excited to say our clients, because in January of 2016, Brad quit his full-time job as an embedded software guy.
Big deal.
20 years. Big deal to come work with me full-time in building the Path to Profit Academy. And this summer, we actually just hired our son to work with us full-time for the summer as well. So here we are again in growth mode. Here we are again looking at our numbers, but looking at them from the perspective of a lot of mistakes, a lot of excitement, and a lot more clarity, I think, than we had before. And so, Brad, I want you to add that piece, and then I'd like to maybe share with people our idea for this first podcast was tell everybody a little bit about us, but also to talk about what is a creative entrepreneur and why are you and I so passionate about helping them?
Wait, which part was I going to share with them?
I know. Let me ask you 4 questions all at once. So just anything else you want to add about our journey to getting to where we are today?
Yeah, I had obviously I said 20 years. I was in software a long time, and I had kind of maxed out where I could go in it. I never wanted to be a manager. I'm not a I don't have that skill set. I'm much more of an introvert, and I'm a creative, and I need to create every day. And so software gave me that outlet. At the same time, I was kind of stagnating a lot and struggled for the last number of years with where I was going. And I don't know, psychiatrists might look at it and say, oh yeah, he's 40. It's that time of life. But
40, aren't you almost 50?
well, yeah, now I am, but I was struggling back then. But, it was time to get out. And so when we looked at Manette growing a coaching business to start, part of the hope and the dream and the plan was to be able to get me out of my job. And I think we actually see that hope in a lot of our clients as well, where one of the spouses is the supporter financially, and the other one wishes that their creativity could pay off enough to get their spouse out of a job. And so, it took us 4 years of growth in Manette's business and a lot of focus, really, whether it was intentional or unintentional, really trying to get closer and closer to understanding exactly what it was, who we were trying to serve and who we were trying to help. And as it turned out, and we see this again and again, as it turned out, the people we were trying to serve are just like us. They really mirror who we are personally. We're both very creative people, and that's a big focus for us. And at the same time, we want to make money.
Yeah, absolutely. We are all about making, and not just make money, Brad, but it's that big distinction. So I realize that I've always been really good at making money. And I think that biggest shift is the realization that we want to make a profit, that we want to have something to show for all the hard work and time that we're investing. I love what I do. Brad and I both tend to be a bit of a workaholics. And we put a lot of energy and effort into our work. And I think it's that place of excitement to think we're going to have money left over at the end of the year, after having a business for 12 years where that wasn't the case, where we were working real hard and didn't have a lot to show for it. So it's been a big, fun shift.
I can't say enough to anyone that's listening, and we're certainly grateful that you're listening. I can't say enough how much we understand how badly it hurts to work really hard and have a ton of gross income and not have any payout. That hurts bad. It's so much effort. You feel like you're putting your heart into it, and to take nothing home is incredibly frustrating, and it doesn't need to be that way. Anyways, I'll let you get back to what you were talking about, Manette.
So I'm having that mommy distraction moment where my daughter just texted me while Brad and I are talking.
Mid-podcast.
Brad's at home in Goleta, California, and I'm actually up in the San Francisco Bay Area getting ready for a VIP day with a client and a couple of speaking engagements up here. And this is the story of our life right now, where we're creating this podcast from wherever we are. We've, again, created this pretty flexible lifestyle and just committed to making it work for us and our family. And Maggie just texted me about her piano lesson. I realized we forgot it yesterday. So do we have it all working perfectly?
No.
Absolutely not. So it's like, one of those moments. But why creative entrepreneurs? I think this is where we want to go with this conversation, rather than just continuing to share about our story. So as Brad said, because we are super creative ourselves. And so in my book, The Artful Marketer, I talk a lot about why creative entrepreneurs. And one of the things that I want to say is that I think a creative entrepreneur who's one who sees creativity as the core of the work that you're doing in the world. You could be an artist, a writer, a speaker, a coach, a graphic designer, an interior designer, a blogger, a massage therapist. It's less about kind of the title or the job you do than it is about the mindset of being an entrepreneur. And I think entrepreneurs have very different mindsets, even from those of just a business owner and definitely from that of an employee. So, somebody said one time that an entrepreneur is simply a person who solves problems for other people at a profit. And I love that definition of an entrepreneur, but I think it goes farther than that. So I have a little checklist here. And if you answer yes, or you agree with 3 or more of the statements on this checklist, then you are probably a creative entrepreneur too. So I'm just going to read these here real quick, Brad, and then I'll be quiet and let you participate or add to the conversation.
This sounds more like you may be a redneck if.
Well, being a native Texan, we could probably I could bring a little bit of that energy. So you might be a creative entrepreneur if you are a visual or kinesthetic learner. You consider yourself to be right-brained.
Yep.
You're always so full of ideas that you can barely contain them. You see connections between people or ideas that other people don't see. You consider yourself to be highly creative in both your work and your life. You're passionate about what you do. You're not a linear thinker. I think this is the one that's truest for me, and why Brad is such a bonus to have in my life and my business. So I'm not a linear thinker, and I struggle with structure and systems. I prefer to work alone or with a collaborative team. I think creative entrepreneurs struggle with hierarchy. I know I never was great at working for other people, but I love collaborating and working with people. You love to go with the flow and not follow a rigid schedule. And on one of our podcasts, we'll talk a lot about time management. We just published a book on time management for creative entrepreneurs. And we'll talk a lot about how you can go with the flow inside of structure and how much structure and systems will liberate you. So I promise we will talk a lot about systems on this show, and we promise to make it super fun, visual, and creative. And you probably find certain aspects of building a business, like creating a budget and sales and marketing, to be pretty frustrating. And you easily get overwhelmed by details. You love the big picture, and details aren't always your best friend. So in listening to that list, if you answered yes and agreed with more than 3 of them, then you probably have the mindset of a creative entrepreneur.
And those are, that's me. I answer yes to a majority of those questions. It's Manette. She answers yes to a majority of them, but a different majority of them. I have a lot more, I'm a lot happier with systems in place than she is. And she has other strengths and weaknesses. For the most part, we complement each other on them, but we continue to see clients come through our summits and into coaching with Manette that struggle with these things, and so a big part of what we do to serve those people is to coach them on how to use their creative skills, like Manette said, to do business better, to learn the business skill set. It's a learned skill set. I'm in the middle of learning it. But they can do that in a creative way, in a way that appeals to their thought processes and how they work. It works for us. It continues to work for our clients, and so that's really how we can serve those people, is to help them with that. And we're certainly hopeful that this podcast does that.
So I want to, talk for a minute about how creative entrepreneurs learn differently than other entrepreneurs, because I think this is a really important part of the process that Brad talked about, referenced, stumbling all over my words this morning. And before I do that, Brad mentioned a summit. And so I want to take a minute to share, I'll go back to the learning because it totally relates to this, to the fact that a few times a year, Brad and I co-host the Path to Profit Summit. This is a 3-day live workshop where we walk you through every single aspect of creating a visual business plan. So one of the things that's unique about creative entrepreneurs is that we're visual thinkers, visual learners. We can be auditory. We tend to process verbally by talking things out. And so I've actually created an entire system for both business planning and marketing that's done on big sheets of paper with crayons and markers and lots of collaboration and interaction that still helps you talk through and creatively think through all the different aspects that you need to understand in order to build a profitable business. It's a step-by-step process. We hold your hand through the whole thing. We dance, we eat a lot of chocolate, and have a lot of creative fun, because what I know to be true about myself, about Brad, and about every single one of our clients is that if we don't make planning fun, we'll never do it. It won't happen. And so we invite you to go to our website, pathtoprofitacademy.com, and check out our summit page and get some more information. We'd love to have you come and play with us. They take place in either Los Angeles or Santa Barbara, California. So the super, super fun experience, and they're basically free to attend. So it's one of our gifts back to the community. You pay $97 to reserve your seat, and we'll give you your $97 back when you come to play with us. But enough of a sales pitch for this particular podcast. But I think where we're going, Brad, is that what we're really good at is helping creative entrepreneurs to put some structure in place so that they can stay focused and on track towards reaching their goals. And we do it in a way that's fun, colorful, and creative. In fact, I just recently had a VIP day with a client, and we were working on her ideal client profile, and she actually drew her ideal client as a unicorn. It was so much fun. Everything was purple and pink and magical, and these are the type of people that she wants to play with. And at the end of the day, she said, I love your process. It's so creative. I didn't feel frustrated or overwhelmed. I feel really excited about where I'm going next with my business. So between Brad and I and the guests that we're going to bring, we're going to be holding your hand through the whole process of understanding how to build your profitable business in a way that's fun, visual, and super creative.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it better. Maybe we should just leave it right there.
Yes, I think we're good. I think we've probably talked people's ears off enough for our first podcast. We're so excited to start this journey together. This is the first really, while we're working together full time, we both have very different jobs and pieces of the business we're claiming. And this together is a creative collaboration that feels super fun and super playful.
Definitely. I'm thrilled. And hey, the technology worked, so hopefully we get an actual recording out of this one.
I know, love technology. So I'm Dr. Minette Riordan.
And I'm not Dr. Brad Dobson. I am Brad Dobson. And, check us out. You can find us online at pathtoprofitacademy.com. And I think we actually have the Path to Profit Academy page on Facebook. Next podcast, I'll be prepared with more social links and things like that.
And you'll find them all in the show notes as well, with links to be able to connect with us. And we're looking for those other couplepreneurs out there too. We'd love to hear some stories and experiences about other couples building business together, and how's it going for you?
Definitely. We're thrilled to be here, thrilled you are listening, and just so happy to get a chance to serve you. Thanks. Have a great day.
Thanks, and make it a great day.